Please listen to the Sloth Podcast. Desktop section. Article by Sloth Leader. Differences when working in Japanese, American and Vietnamese companies. If at some point, life is lucky enough to put you in front of three choices. Remember what is below and find out what you want. But when everything goes normally, just going to work is precious. You should also look ahead and behind. Japan, America and Vietnam are the most common companies you will encounter when working. How are they different? Remember these basics. Working for America, you are like a cowboy. Working for Japan, you are a geisha. Coming to a Vietnamese company, you are everything. Let's review some of the most basic criteria. Time and work intensity. In American offices, cowboys are quite hardworking, working continuously, herding cows but working like buffaloes. Time and work speed are both great. There is too much to do. Instead of 2 cowboys for 2 herds of cattle, there are always 3 or 4 herds for 2 cowboys. Looking at the geisha girls, just laughing is enough to make the day go by. The story of Japanese people working to death seems to be just a legend. In general, in Japanese companies, working hours may be long but the intensity is not as great. In many meetings, people walk lightly, speak softly, smile charmingly, and walk around aimlessly. That means you still have to work like a buffalo. But a beautiful and good buffalo. In Vietnamese companies, not the state sector, many places have 2 things happening in parallel. You work hard like a cowboy and smile charmingly in meetings with unclear meanings like a geisha. In short, still like a buffalo. Salary. The saying, "you get what you pay for," is true. Cowboys are mostly paid according to their ability to single-handedly manage 2 herds of cattle, while geisha will be a little lower. Vietnamese companies of course cannot compare. However, there are still very few cases where they are paid much higher than geisha or cowboys. That is because this person is expected to change the world. But usually, the world is still the same. Working environment. True to the nature of a cowboy. American companies are mostly more free. With flexible hours, you can come to the office late as long as you can get everything done. But when taking care of 2 herds of cows at the same time, you should forget about coming too late if you don't want to stay too late. Americans also value efficiency and results. Therefore, they can fire a cowboy for any legitimate reason to hire someone cheaper and more productive. The Japanese bloc is completely different. This working environment values consensus and collectivity. Everything is serious, standard but friendly. It is rare for a geisha to be fired even if the performance is quite bad. People can work here until they are old if they want. Therefore, geishas sometimes have to learn to tolerate each other and you are not allowed to have a samurai temper. What about Vietnam? Surprisingly, although we often talk about exploitative capitalism, the number of Vietnamese companies using fingerprints, late salary deductions, etc. is much higher than geisha or cowboys. The standards and rules change constantly according to the inspiration of the leader. You have to learn to tolerate each other and avoid samurai. Long-term orientation. Both geisha and cowboys are well trained. Japan or America pay a lot of attention to developing the people who work for them so that everything can be faster and better. Especially when you intend to become a long-time geisha. What about Vietnamese companies? There is a vicious circle here. Most young people who have just graduated will join Vietnamese companies first to gain experience. When they are old enough, they fly off to work as cowboys or geisha. Therefore, Vietnamese owners do not care about training. They think that after doing this, the other employees will also quit. As a result, Vietnamese companies often have a few loyal senior employees who are not trained but also do not quit. Anyway, it is very difficult to avoid. Vietnam had its first private companies in the 1990s. 30 years later is not long enough to build everything like Japan or the US. There is still a long way to go. Back to us. A working person. You can only choose. Be a cowboy herding cows or a hard-working geisha. Or a geisha riding a horse herding cows? Happiness is a choice. Wish you all wisdom.